be fine. Okay, just started the recording. Chrono first. Um, People call it often a support class. It's not. We're not a support class. We are a utility class. Main difference is that we don't give boons out. No, we don't. We give healing. So we are there for our unique utility and abilities, which includes G-Well, for example, which is our elite that knocks down and pull people. The focus pull, also known as temporal curtain, which gives a huge AoE pool, and then skills like illusion of life, portal, veil, all of the skills that makes Mesmer basically. So starting from the build, we have. Well, let's start with the gear. Gear really doesn't matter that much, as long as you have a good baseline of duration. You can go with whatever you like. Right now, I'm on full minstrel. It gives me 60% boon duration. I'm full exotic except for a couple of one legendary, but it's mostly exotic. It gives a base of 60 duration. You can go absolutely full wanderers. You can go commander on the gear and then wanderer for everything else. You could also go full celestial. Gear doesn't matter as long as you have decent boon duration. So I mean, just don't go full marauder. That doesn't work really well. That doesn't work mostly because the main skills that you're using are CCs. So even if you are spec'd for damage, you're not really going to do loads of damage. Traits. There are two main builds that we're going to cover. The default one, which I recommend, gives you the ability to remove boons by using shatter. All your shatter skills removes boons. Disabling a foe removes boons from them. Therefore, all your CCs, all your skills that disable, and disables includes days, among other things, right? You have your time sink, your temporal curtain, gravity well, tides of time. All these skills disable the enemy and therefore remove boons. So main things that you're gonna do as a Mesmer is removing boons. Remember that your shatters are in melee range. You don't need a clone to shatter. With this weapon set, you will rarely have clones anyway. So since we can use shatters to cleanse to remove boons, illusions comes in handy. It makes that the shatter one is hammer skill, so you have 2 charges, and the master fragmentation makes it that your time sink affects 5 targets rather than 1 target, and your time sink removes 2 boons per target, because the first boon is because it's a shatter, and the second boon because you are going on days them. And yeah, clones die too fast anyway. In Chronomancer, disabling a foe slows them and You gain alacrity when you inflict slow. So time sync is going to give you alacrity due to lost time. Alacrity is improved on yourself, which again is helpful because you have long CDs like 90 seconds, 60, 40. Right? So having alacrity on yourself is really handy. You're gonna apply alacrity to yourself by slowing enemies or disabling them, but also using shutter. Right? So if you do shutter 1, you get a little bit of alacrity, and you can spam all your shutters even when you are moving around, just to apply a little bit of alacrity. On the topic of weapons, actually I skipped something. The default weapon set is sword with sigil of absorption. Obviously we are into, we want to interrupt enemies and removing boons, so this sigil is perfect. And then you have shield and focus. I'm running energy on, I'm running frenzy on the shield, energy on the focus. This is mostly because the shield is uncapped, so you can hit a whole Zerg with this one skill, and you're gonna stamp them all, basically. So it's really valuable to get reduced cooldown as much as possible, and that's why it's handy to have the frenzy here. This is one weapon set. You can start replacing weapons. You can run Scepter, and usually it's Scepter Focus as the weapon set. Scepter has the nice property of allowing you to create clones really easily. You have the Scepter Auto Attack. The last one creates a clone. The Scepter 2 creates a clone, the counter spell, so you click once and then you click another one and you create a clone. This is useless for power or for utility case. You can replace the sword shield with the staff. That gives you access to a 1200 range weapon. So all depends whether you have a commander that allows you to push a melee range or not. If your commander or your group is really pushing in melee, just remove the shield and the sword and just go for the staff. Chaos Storm is an AoE daze, so you pick 5 target and you daze them, therefore you are removing boons. You gain access to a disengage, which can be nice, right? If we are kiting around and your squad cannot sustain you for whatever reason, phase retreat can be useful. You have another access to a phantasm. Well, Chaos Armor is not bad, right? It's random boons. It's always nice. Well, again, it's a 1200 weapon ranged. So, you simply can go ranged. And the Scepter is 900, which ties perfectly with the Focus, which is also 900. So that's your alternative weapon set. Usually we run with the sword shield and without the focus, but keep in mind that alternatives exist and you can use them. And with the scepter, it's really easy to have at least one clone up, and then you can easily use your continuous split and add a lot of skills inside, like doing double gravity well plus double null field plus I don't know, there's anything else that you can use. So on the topic of skills, healing skill, you can choose whatever you like. I like Well of Eternity. Main reason why I like this is because it removes conditions on the affected target. It does that as you land the well, so you can use it right, on yourself. As the cast ends, it removes the conditions, and then when it ends, it does a little bit of healing. So I use this mostly for Condy Clans. If you don't like that, you can run pretty much any healing skill. You can run Month of Recovery, Mirror, the Signet. I mean, it's really up to personal preference. Again, I usually use Well of Eternity. Yeah, and it helps with the Condy Clans. If you also manage to land the healing, the end healing, nice. Otherwise, is what it is. Next, we have Nullfield. It removes conditions and removes boons. So you can use it either offensively or defensively, depending on the situation. The best, obviously, would be when we push in melee range. You activate that, and it both cleanse and remove conditions. So and the effect is this purple pulsing thing. Now, for the goal of the build, this Nullfield is the only mandatory skill that you have. The others are mostly due to personal preference. Amount of concentration is Mental concentration gives you self-stability. I'm usually always one that, especially if I'm leading on Mesmer. You can replace it easily with the Mantle of Resolve if your stability uptime is okay, but you need it a bit more Condy Clans. You can decide to run Veil Portal if you want to help the squad. You can run Mimic. Mimic is also a really nice option because it allows you to you activate that Mimic, then you use Nullfield, and the cooldown of Nullfield is reset, so you can do another one. Or same goes for any other utility. Other than that, you can also run mirror images if you want to play with clones. In that case, you could run it so that your time sync is it's way bigger, or feedback. There are loads of situational skills, right? So and most of them are good. There's no right or wrong. As the last one, lately we are running with the illusion of life. Remember to call it when it happens. Illusion of life makes it that downstate target are revived for 15 seconds. skill, retargeting.
That's in settings.
Yes, let's see settings.
Because what it allows you to do, right? Gravity well is like a 1 second cast. And if you have those two options selected, then it will be cast where your mouse cursor is once the cast is over, not where it was when you started the cast. So you can basically follow wherever you want it to be, and that's where it will be if you have those two options. Yeah, skill retargeting, and then instead of fast with range indicator, it's instant.
Yeah, risky. No, okay. Yeah, no, I understand. I would never switch to instant because
No?
it's okay. If I played only with only Mesmer, probably, but for other classes, and especially for commanding, I need to see that target because sometimes or rather often what I do is I have feedback visible so that I can see if I'm in range or not, and I can call for a range spike, things like that. So that's why
Yeah,
I cannot play with the instant. I need to see it. But yeah, no, that's a nice trick actually. You know, and if you can play with that, 100% go for it.
right.
Utility. Well, utility. The last slot is again. Currently, we're using Illusion of Life. Any of the skills that we talked about before are perfectly available. There is no one that's better than the other. They're all situational. So, I also really like the Phantasmal Disenchanter. It actually works, although people keep saying that Illusions dies too fast. Situationally, this is amazing. But again, that's my usual setup. I run Nullfield, Mantle of Concentration, and Illusion of Life. Delete, while you don't have any option, there's one elite which is called Gravity Well, and it's the reason why we're running Chronomancer. Well, the second reason actually. The first one is the Tides of Time. Cool. So that's the weapon set. We talked about the skills. There is one detail that we have to go through, which is the usage of the continuous split. Continuous split is, well, the shutter that is new to the Chronomancer. When you activate, the game makes a snapshot of your cooldown, health, and endurance. And when it ends, it reverses everything as it was when you clicked, including your position and rotation, camera rotation. That got me killed a couple of times. So what you want to do is activate the continuous split and to potentially reset one of your main cooldown. Consider that it lasts for 2 seconds, I believe. So you activate that, and you have a little bit of time to use abilities, and then it ends. Yeah, 1 second and a half. Yeah, actually. Okay, so now I have to wait on the cooldowns to reset. So
I do want to say continuum split can be cast like midway through casting your gravity well.
yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. So basically, what
Yeah.
you want to do is start to cast your G well, and while it's casting, you click on the you activate your continuous split. Yeah, you have 1 second, so it's pretty easy to do. Just well, let me. Yeah, finally, yeah. You activate the skill. You activate continuous split. Continuous split is now active. It it ends or expire, and wait a second. So yeah, exactly. I mean, you have like as soon as the G well lands, right, you can use other skills while the continuous split is active. You can fit the shield. If you do that, amazing play. Otherwise, it's probably easier to drop a null field or simply get out of the
You're saying you
continuous
good, yeah?
split. Consider that continuous split remembers the location what you activated. So if you're running, you activate that, when it ends, you will end up back where you started. So if you do that while you are moving and you're following a commander, you might find yourself in the middle of the enemy group, which might have happened a couple of times. Yeah, it's an easy way to die as a Mesmer. It never happened. Absolutely never. Right? So you have to use your your judgment to see whether it's worth or not to use continuous split. Usually, I always tend to use the continuous split for the first G well, and well, I'm cheating because as a commander I know where I can stop. But otherwise you have to guess whether it's safe or not to activate continuous split. If you're not using continuous split for the G well, use it for the Tides of Time, which is another rather long cooldown. Obviously, G well has the highest value, but the Tides of Time is the second highest value that you can get. Mostly because Tides of Time is uncapped. And then again, it's easier to use that with the shield, because, well, first of all, you don't have to time it. You have time, you can activate it, use it, and you can use it again. It's way easier, right, to use it. But having said that, you also have to land the Tides of Time, which is that shield that moves forward towards the direction that you point. If you catch the shield back, to say it easily, then the cooldown is reduced. So whatever you do, when you throw your shield, always try to pick it back. Otherwise, the cooldown is insanely long. The continuous split doesn't prevent you to. If you die while you continue split, you die. Also, other thing that might be important, the continuous split can be killed, destroyed. So if it gets destroyed, you get put back where it started. So if by any chance you're using continuous split while you are inside of a bomb, it might end before the cast time of G-Well finishes, if you don't time it correctly. And in general, unless you're, well, okay, talking about clones. With our current weapon set, don't expect to have clones, period. Okay, you can generate clones. You have the sword 3, which creates a clone. You have the Phantasmal Warden, which dies before the animation completes. You have Echo of Memory, which creates a phantasm. You could theoretically create clones, but practically it's almost impossible. The only clone that you can rely on is the Illusionary Leap, if you are fast enough. So you activate that, you create a clone at a target, then you tap it again, and you port it to the clone, and you immobilize 3 targets around it, which is really nice, really good to see. But that's the only clone you can rely. Now, completely different story if you're running with the Scepter, for example. With the Scepter, you can keep up one clone all the time. No issue about that. You just 1-1-1 while you're at range, and you're gonna have clones. That's it. And if you really want, you can use Illusionary Counter, and it creates a clone. That's it. Right? Yeah. So depending on the weapon set, you can rely on clones, but the only thing that you actually need the clones for are the time sync. If you have clones up, amazing. It's way better. If you have clones up and you use continuous split, depending on the situation, it could be amazing. Like you can probably chain G-Well, Nullfield, and something else. But again, it's really hard to rely on clones, except for the start of the fight. In the middle, again, with our weapon set, you don't really generate clones, so. Other things that might be useful. Food. Our food option. Pick whatever you like. Same goes for the utility. Now, if you're running full Wanderer, I suggest you to run this food, which is the Magnanimous. This one. The Sharpening Stone gives you loads of power. Obviously, you can run the Maintenance Soil, which gives you concentration. Both of them are really good, and both of them stacks are increased, by toughness and vitality, both of stats that you have. Because if you're running full Minstrel, you have toughness and vitality. If you're running Wanderer, you have toughness and vitality. So in all cases are decent options. As the for your food, I'm usually picking the poultry aspect, which is this one. Gives you concentration and toughness. Both stats that are really good. If you are feeling fancy, you can run with the power food. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're doing a little bit of damage. All your shatter do damage. Your sword skill does damage. You have Blood Frenzy, which does damage in melee range. You are a melee class, so again, you run in and you can do a little bit of damage. So you want to stack power, yeah, go for it. Just don't be surprised when you are not topping the damage meters on this pack, because you're not built for that. Having said that, are there any questions so far?
Nope.
Is it clear what the Mesmer is supposed to be doing in a fight?
Strip and pull.
Yeah, that sums it up rather nicely. I mean, the the main role of the Mesmer is and always been supporting the squad using various utilities. Some commanders might call for Veil for stealth. All the commanders want you to keep the enemy in place while we are fighting. Some commanders calls for a pull, like pull and spike. If people are not calling for pull, but they are calling for a spike, the pull is implied. Just pull, right? And if the commander, says, okay, we're going to do a damage on the purple dot or that marker, go. You're ready with the pull. You can pull exactly on marker. You can pull on the side or behind. Just pull in the vicinity of the marker, so that the damage will go there. One thing about the pull, which I haven't actually said anything about, the pull is at 900 range, but it pulls in a radius of 600. So you can do a pull at 1200, basically, while you're pulling people at 1200 into the 900 range, which then allows Nekos to do damage with the wells. Other important thing about pull, exactly. Let me see if we can find a wall. Well, this tower looks nice. If you wanna pull people down, right, you shouldn't be pulling at the bottom, right? If you pull at the bottom, it's not gonna do the 600 range, right? Top. And same goes if you wanna pull people off the wall, you shouldn't be putting your pull exactly at the top, right? Otherwise, people won't travel, and you don't get the effect of pulling people off the wall. You should be aiming for the middle or slightly above the middle of the wall, so that you can actually pull people off the edge. This is one of common mistake of the pull, right? You see pull that are way up, close to the border, which makes no sense if you want to pull people outside the wall, that is. So remember that it has a radius of 600. 600 is bigger than all your skills that you have. I was looking if I have some skill that is 600, well, the shield is actually 600. It's a big radius.
It is a 1500 range pool, right?
It's
Because it's 900 plus 600.
Yeah, 1500.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you can pull people that don't really expect to be pulled, right? This is why usually Mesmer can pull people off the wall, because 600 range is actually rather big as a radius. Just remember that the angle of the line doesn't really matter that much, because the targets are pulled toward the line anyway, and the radius is around the center of the skill rather than the line itself. Nice bonus if you drop your focus 1 and you go through that, you get swiftness. Now, I suppose I never saw Mesmer using that for swiftness, but you really want and you are behind and you know that you are gonna fight for 25 seconds and you need swiftness, you know how to get it. Does it matter? Not really, because, well, kinda, but you have 25% movement speed with Connor, so you are already faster than other people at running. Okay, so that's one build. The second build, we're going really fast on that, is meant for a minstrel Connor. So not any other combination of stats that we talked before, just pure minstrel. It uses inspiration instead of illusion, and it runs, well, I'm gonna link it. Should have done before for the other one as well, but it's running the restorative mantras, illusions, and basically everything that can give some healing. It's meant to be used as a support class. In that case, you are gonna replace Illusion of Life probably with the Mantra of Resolve. So you're running 3 mantras. You can output decent healing. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad either. If you're running the Mantra of Resolve and Mantra of Concentration, you can be a poor man Firebrand or a poor man Scalper. You're not great at either, right? But in a pinch, if there is nobody that can support your party and you want to help out, you can run this build. It does healing and Conny cleanse. You can keep people up. Do I recommend it? Not really, but it is an alternative, and we should know that it exists at least. For this build, I recommend running the focus somewhere like focus. Not focus. I meant scepter, focus, and the stuff as the secondary weapon set. Because you really want to play with the illusion, the clones. This build still has some bone rip potential. You're not gonna do anywhere near the bone rip that the other build can output. It's still decent because you still have access to the gravity well, the focus pool, null field, but you're more focused on healing and condi cleansing your party rather than bone stripping NCC. I run this in open text when it's a really bad open tag and we need some more support. So that's it. The Chrono. As for the last build that we are going to talk about, it's the Virtuoso. Virtuoso is super fun. It's the new boy in town. It's focused on doing damage rather than supporting or helping people out in any way. As a Mesmer, the Virtuoso as well. Let me link the build first. This is one option. There are many out there. You can switch out the Blade Renewal for Illusion of Life, Alfield, Veil, Portal, all the usual suspects. The other two options are really mandatory for the for a Zerg play. The Sword of Decimation is 3 seconds immob at 1200 range. The range sword is similar to a well from the Scourges or Necros. So activate that and it does damage to the target area. 1000 cuts is super nice as elite. If you manage to get enemies coming towards you, you can use that to pew 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 blades in the face. Does a lot of damage. You can use that even when controlled, so that's a nice bonus. As a healing skill, you can use whatever you like. I use the Twin Blade because it's a little bit extra damage and it's nice. It's also 1200 range. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it removes condies, gives a little bit of damage, does nice healing, nice cooldown. Not having the well that removes condies is a nice alternative. Your big burst of damage comes from the the rain plus the 1000 cards plus the shutter. Your shutter has been replaced by blade songs. You're no longer gonna create clones, but you have these pretty purple swords on your head. Your shutters will throw swords at the enemy. As with every other shutters, the logic is always the same. You have in the first you have power, second shutter is condi, third one is interrupt, and the last one is some kind of damage avoidance. Before we had the continuous split, in this case we have blade turn, which blocks. It creates a nice ball around you that blocks targets for 2 seconds and then does damage while the blades are spinning around you. Weapons. Again, you can use whatever you want. You're always gonna have a focus. You can go with the dagger as your dagger focus. It's a 1200 range option, which still does considerable damage. As secondary set, I'm using the greatsword. Again, the idea is that you're doing a 1200 range attacks, so you are backline. You're really going to go in melee range, which makes the use of blink an interesting option because you have to be able to reposition yourself to actually be helpful to the squad. We are not currently using Virtuoso, but it's a nice option if you open tag and you want to do damage rather than being useful to the squad. That's an option that you have. Yeah. And yeah, you can do a lot of damage, especially if the fight goes in your favor. What I mean by that is that your biggest damage is your elite, which attacks basically in a corridor in front of you, right? And it's really easy to see. So if the enemy are coming towards you in a choke, you drop that and you're gonna do a lot of damage. But if the enemy can simply sidestep that super purple laser thingy, you're not gonna do much damage with the 1000 cuts. The yeah, exactly. It's really trashing over the field, and you can replace it with
Moa.
yeah, I was about to say more. I mean, the damage on 1000 cuts is amazing. So if you can land it, it's really rewarding, especially because it's unblockable. But Moa or time warp or massive visibility, or even the racial things might be better sometimes. If all you do is open field fights, then 1000 cuts is not gonna work most of the time. Other than that, the builder that we are running focus on this rotation, which is basically the standard shutter mirage, shutter Mesmer thing, which you want to do the Phantasmal Berserker on a cluster, followed by the Mind Stab, and you follow it up with the shutter. Now, if it works, you're gonna generate downs only using those three skills. You can follow it up with the Raid of Sword and sort of Decimation. Remember, your objective is spiking rather than continuous damage, because you're not gonna do that. You might be topping the damage meters for the first, I don't know, 2-3 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, but after that, your damage simply is a spike, right? You do a huge spike and then you don't have anything else left. Unlike the Mirage, for example, that you can use your dodge and Grandstone number 1 to keep up the AoE damage. The only AoE damage that you have is the Phantasm, the Mind Stab, and the Shutter. That's it. So that's the issue. And remember, you're also running the as other weapon set, and you can use the secondary weapon set where you're not spiking. You're waiting at range for your cooldowns, basically. So that's it. Remember, you also have pulls. So what will happen? Usually, you're running around with your whatever you have as a primary weapon and your focus. The commander will call for a spike on the purple dot. You drop your pull. You follow it up with the sort of decimation. So you have just pulled in some people. You try to immobilize them there, and then you start your weapon swap and you start to spike that spot. As you do that, it's kind of slow, right? Like, as you do that more often, you get the hand, and it's quite easy to land all these skills. Also remember that you are going to use your shutter and shutter as much as possible with as many dots that you have, blades. So that's the virtuoso in a nutshell. And I don't think there are interesting traits to talk about. It's a pretty standard power Virtuoso build. Do you guys have any questions about the Virtuoso? Oh, the gear. Well, suppose you can find the link on the on Discord, but I'm running full Marauder. Right now, I was trying with some weird stuff, but the suggestion would be running full Marauder with the Scholar runes. So, you know, pretty much the standard PvE DPS power equip. You can run dragons. You can run full berserker. I mean, you're not gonna push into melee range with the Virtuoso, so you can run as glassy as you want. And actually, the suggestion would be look at the PvE builds for Mesmer that are running power. Go with that gear, because usually have one assassin instead of full berserker, and that tries to optimize the crit chance. But having said that, you know, just go as glassy as you can survive, and then start adding Marauder or Dragon when you want a little bit more of vitality. So,
I guess it plays sort of like a Weaver, right?
yeah.
Sort of staying on the outside, dropping meteor showers, statics, doing damage.
Yeah, pretty much it runs like a Weaver. And it actually, yeah, and you really have even less incentive of going back to the tag as a Mesmer, because you can survive longer as a pure backline, because the the Weaver needs to go into melee range sometimes, but as a Mesmer you really don't, especially if you're running with Blink or some kind of defensive utility.
Cool.
So yeah, that's the quick training session for the Mesmer. As usual, if you have any question, just send me a message somewhere, and I'm gonna reply.